Okay. Hi, it's Miss Tickle. Yes, Miss Tickle. Chapter 4, Mesopotamia, Lesson 2, the Sumerians, Sumer's civilization. And it matters because the Sumerians made important advances in areas such as farming and writing that laid the foundation for future civilizations. Okay, so we have a really cool map pulling up of Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is your land between the two rivers. It's also known as the Fertile Crescent. Remember, it's got three names. Okay, Mesopotamia, land between two rivers, and the Fertile Crescent. So your river that sits on top is Tigris. Top, Tigris, T and T. Euphrates is under. Okay, Euphrates, under. Got it? The U and the U? Okay. So now the people of Sumer are called Sumerians. They built the first cities in Southwest Asia. So many people were asking exactly where is Mesopotamia on the map. And if you remember in class, we did color in Mesopotamia on our map, on our big cardstock map, in green. On this map, they happen to be showing it in orange. So I'm going to circle it right here. You can see this is Mesopotamia. Right over here is Egypt, which is in Africa. Over here is India, which is also in Asia. So when you look at a big map to see the civilization of Mesopotamia, it is on the continent of Asia, located in the southwest corner. Get rid of those animations for you. And here's an up-close map. So the land that sits in between the two rivers is that fertile area. This is where all of their farming occurred. This is where the civilizations begin to arise. And when that flooding came from the Zagros Mountains, we had it flowing down, mixing in with picking up the silt. Okay, vocab word, very important. Picking up the silt and flooding and inundating that area, making it very rich and fertile. And then the water would flow down to the Persian Gulf. Now, Mr. Kennedy. Okay, bye.
There you go. Now you're ready.
And we're back with our Chapter 4, Lesson 2 video notes. I'm Mr. Kennedy. You'll be with me for the next couple slides. So, Sumer cities were surrounded by mud flats and patches of scorching desert. Pretty neat. It was difficult to travel by land or communicate with other groups, mostly cut off from its neighbors. Also, the cities were independent and gained political and economic control of the lands around them. So now we're going to talk about the Sumerian city of So right here, you got a pretty cool city right here. You see this outer wall kind of going around. And on the outside, we have the farms. On the inside, we're going to talk about those things next. So the population of the city of ranged from around 5,000 to 20,000 people, the way historians estimate it. Each city-state, we know city-state from our vocabulary, was surrounded by a wall made of mud because that's the available resources that these people probably had. Remember from the last side, they were surrounded by mud flats, so they're going to really build with what's around them. You guys can see that that's the outer wall, and looks like we have a couple other things that we're going to talk about on the inner part of the city. The ruler's palace was a large temple, and other public buildings were located within the city. So we're going to go back to the inner wall. You can see there's kind of another wall there. That's where the ruler's palace would be, and other kind of important public buildings. You can see farms once again on the outside. We know these people lived along many river systems and valleys. There's actually a river flowing through the middle of their city. It's pretty cool that they were able to, build a city with an outer wall around that river. Often, city-states went to war over, once again, their resources and political borders, sometimes even glory. So if you had more resources than your neighbor, there was a chance that you could have been attacked because they might want to steal your resources. Now, if you have a scarcity of resources in your area, there's a chance that you might want to go take over another land that has a surplus of resources. So some of those words that we remembered back from our gummy bear activity. So during times of peace, city-states traded with each other, and they often formed alliances. So alliances are going to be kind of friendships. They could be political and also military alliances.
Okay, so we want to talk about what it was like living inside that city that Mr. Kennedy talked about. And if you'll look right here, I've got this neat little picture going on of a ziggurat, and you can see the bricks that they would have built it out of, those mud bricks that he talked about building the wall, Mr. Kennedy did. And we can look and see some of the architecture and how big the buildings probably were. This was a ruin. This is not even really what it would have looked like. We're going to look at that in just a minute. So they had a hierarchy, and this is the reason on our grapes where we did the social hierarchy, we talk about how society puts people in a hierarchy, a list. And so certain people have certain jobs, and in certain societies, some jobs are more valuable than other jobs. And so one of the things that held the Sumerian people together would be their sense of religion. Now, they believed in many gods, and this is something that's new probably to you. The idea of polytheism. That means that you're worshiping more than one god. Like a polygon has more than one side. So they worshipped many gods all at the same time. And each city-state is going to have one god as a special protector, like a patron god. One that's supposed to just protect their city, not really anybody else, but it's going to take care of them especially. That God may help other cities, but that's our main God that we focus on. The Sumerians believed that some gods had power over nature, and their ziggurats that they built were their shrines and their temples where they would worship. So they would go to the ziggurat if they needed any help with anything, and the priests that were there would help. And so the priests lived at the ziggurat, and they worshipped, and they led the people there. So here's the top. Most of their gods focused on sun worship, and because the sun was what brought them all the benefits of where they lived to help the crops grow and all those kinds of things. And at the very, very top was the home of the gods, and only special priests were allowed in. So this actual top part right up here, let's draw a little circle here, that actual part at the very top, nobody could even go inside there. That's where they said that the gods lived, and only some of the priests were allowed in, not everybody. So that really could be a problem if you didn't know what was going on inside, but that didn't matter to the people. They still believed in this polytheism and had many gods that they worshipped. So there's that house. So that led it to social groups. So, and at the top of all these social groups would have been the gods, then the priest, and then we would have had the next social group of people would have been the upper class and the scribes, the nobility, and then the lower class merchants. So I think there's one more. Yes, and the very lowest would have been slaves, people that they captured from wars or different things like that. So the priest would have been at the very top. And they would have gotten word from the gods and told the people what was going on and what the gods wanted them to know and what was coming. Then there would have been the upper class of people, the wealthy people, and within those people would have been the scribes. Scribes are very important in the society. They can actually write, and to scribble like a 2-year-old, like scribbling, that's where we get the word scribe. So those are your nobility, your kings, your princesses, and your people that would be related to the king. That would have been your nobility and your rich merchants. Your lower class, your merchants would be, and then other merchants that don't have quite as much money, farmers and artisans. Most people are going to be in this class. Let me get the little pen back. Yep, there we go. Most people are going to be in this class. That's the majority because we need plenty of food to eat. The lowest class is going to be slaves. Those are people that have been captured in war, or maybe they owe money and they're working off their debts. So that would have been an option to be a slave. Now, we'll talk about slavery in class a little bit more. There's a different idea of slavery in ancient times than what we have today and what we've experienced in our country. It's going to be very different. So we'll talk about how that works out in class. So your hot question. Why do you think the priests were so influential in the Sumerian society? There's a reason for that. What were the priests doing? What jobs did they have? So you can kind of think about that. What kind of influence would they have had over the people, and why would people listen to them? Okay, so I'm going to show you a ziggurat here. This is the ruins, and then there's the recreation of what it would look like if it were built today. So the priests would have been living here at this ziggurat. That would have been their home. And at the very top would be where the gods lived. All right, so here is, you can see the ruins, and then you can see the real, what it would have looked like if it were restored, or if you walked up upon that during this time. All right, hot question. Please follow directions on the hot question. Use as many vocabulary words as you can. 3 to 5 sentences. Restate the prompt. Make sure that you are answering it correctly using all of those questions. If you have any doubts at all about how to answer your hot question, please go watch the video again. There's a video that will help you with answering your hot question. All right, guys, there you go. And we hope you do your reading notes well. We can't wait to see what you come up with. Can't wait to hear your thoughts and see how you're thinking. And we will see you in class. Looking forward to it. Bye. All right, hi guys, welcome back to the last section of these video notes. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for a job well done and showing us all about the inner city of Ur. And so we want to continue talking about that land between these two rivers and the cities that developed there. So just a little bit more information about that. Possibly. There we go. And I think that this is not my slide. Here we go.